Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to the winter campaign in Arkham Horror, the card game. Last night when we started off with Riddles and Rain in London, Diana and Ursula picked up 2 experience. So now we're going to start getting everything ready for our next scenario as the ladies are in Havana dancing mad. Before we do that though, let's go over to our scenario setup. As you can see, we haven't done that yet. We'll be going through setup for that in a minute. But first, we'll show you upgrades real quick. And they will be very quick. Let me see. Here we go. And they'll be very similar to one another. Let's see. There we go. They both took very similar upgrade paths in this one. Diana started off by upgrading one of her vicious blows, as you can see a level 0 here, to level 2. So all vicious blow level 2 gives her is another combat icon and a +2 damage clause if you succeed by 2 or more on an attack test. And we'll give that a shuffle. Ursula did the exact same thing, just with clues. Here's deduction level 0. And level 2 gives her an extra lore icon and 2 additional clues if you succeed by 2 or more. So very quick on the upgrade front. And then before we jump into setting up the scenario, we'll go ahead and do today's tarot reading. So I'll bring the tarot deck over. Again, we are using the Super Complete Edition module that's fan maintained. So we'll give this a pretty deep shuffle. And then we'll pull our 2 tarot cards out. And the rest of the deck, we'll put that out of the way over here. So our first tarot card is the High Priestess 2. First lore test each investigator performs each round, they get +1 lore. Or if you flip it during the first lore test each round, they get -1 lore. Or our other card is the Sun 19. During each investigator's turn, they may take 2 additional actions, or flip it for 2 fewer actions. During each investigator's first turn, 2 fewer actions. So essentially quick setup. Jester says, "Damn dude, I'm up early. What's going on?" Actually, I'm kind of starting stream late for a Sunday, but normally I get up at I was planning on getting up at 4 a.m. this morning, but I decided to finish out The Man in the High Castle, which is the series I've been watching on Amazon Prime lately. So I was up a little bit later than I wanted to be last night, knocking that out. But this is actually later than I wanted to start, but here we are. I'm just deciding on what I want for the tarot reading for this scenario. Let's see. That would bring Ursula down to a lore of 3 on her first test, which is manageable, but I'm not crazy about the idea. I think I'm even less crazy about having 2 fewer actions to take. So we are going to flip the High Priestess 11. That's the tarot reading we're going to go with today. So I'm just going to make a note of that in chat. Good is Sun 19. First turn +2 actions. Or first round, I should say, +2 actions. Bad. High Priestess 2, -1. And let me see about pinning that. There we go. That way I make sure I remember what the tarot reading is for the whole scenario. So we're all set there. So I think we have nothing else to do except to go through Dancing Mad. So I've got the campaign guide that I'm keeping here off shot. We will go ahead and go through that. I've got a pen right here so I can make any notes I need. Chat will also be kind of a library of notes for me. Actually, before we do that, let's refresh our memory on the Eye of Ravens, which is the new key that's attached to Diana. Diana is the bearer of this key. This was a key that we picked up last week from Riddles and Rain. So the Eye of Raven says, shift during a skill test at your location. The performing investigator sets their base skill value for this test to 6. Flip the key to its unstable side. Then, a shift to draw the top card of the encounter deck. Then if an investigator shifted this key, flip it to its stable side. So basically it's like an extra encounter card to flip it back over. And I think on that note, we are set to go through Dancing Mad, the intro. So first up, we'll talk about the dossier. File number 28-I, subject class yellow, real identity, Delgado Alvarez Desiderio, last known location, Havana, Cuba. Description, subject number 28-I, hereinafter known as the man in the blood-soaked suit, or Desiderio Delgado Alvarez, is a man of Cuban descent, approximately 42 years old and 192 centimeters in height. Typically seen in a black suit accessorized with apparent coterie paraphernalia, including tie and hat, all with red accents. Paradimensional capabilities. Man in the blood-soaked suit does not appear to possess any extraordinary powers aside from peak redacted physical performance, and yes, it actually is redacted in the dossier that we're going through. An unusually high skill and accuracy with firearms. Redacted, enhanced, redacted. Approach with caution. Sightings. Mr. Alvarez is a longtime resident of Havana. However, no records exist pertaining to subject's childhood or early life. Likely destroyed upon induction into coterie, but possibility remains of redacted. Either way, his identity may be an alias. Mr. Alvarez is known to frequent a nightclub known as Cafe Luna. Foundation has no knowledge pertaining to any key in Havana. However, Mr. Alvarez is likely to know a location of other keys. Approach procedure. Open negotiations with subject to acquire location of coterie vaults and or hideouts. If he does not cooperate, subdue and interrogate. More information available in the Moscow office. File number 26-G4. Now we actually get into the intros. I'm going to crack open my crystal light since I will be talking a lot this scenario. Intro 1. As it turns out, finding the red coterie operating out of Havana is the easiest part of your trip to Cuba. According to your intel, Mr. Alvarez can often be seen spending his nights at Cafe Luna, a hotspot among locals and American tourists looking to escape the iron jaws of prohibition. Open at nearly all hours of the night and serving a variety of liquors that would make even the most seasoned bootlegger's eyes bulge, the bar has become one of the most popular in all of Havana. You arrive at peak hours, hoping to use the crowd to blend in. For all you know, Mr. Alvarez may have been warned of your approach. As soon as you arrive, you are greeted by an array of bright lights and a crowd almost too thick to squeeze past. Live jazz resounds from within the club, and many are dancing and reveling, some before they even get inside. A bouncer in a black pinstripe suit greets you at the door, giving you the once-over, but not bothering to pat you down, ask for a password, or any of the usual hoops you might have to jump through back in the speakeasies hidden throughout the States. Once inside, you head straight for the bartender and struggle to get his attention. You order a drink as a cover, but his expression changes the moment you say that you're looking for a Mr. Desiderio Alvarez. Eyes narrow with suspicion, he nonetheless nods in the direction of a roped-off hallway in the back corner of the room, guarded by 2 more suits. Both of them flank you as you approach, and follow you into what can only assume to be the club's VIP section. There, in a dim, smoky back room, sits none other than the man in the blood-soaked suit, so named for the red accents adorning his otherwise black suit. Or perhaps it is simply a metaphor. He inhales slowly from a cigarette hanging loosely from his lips as he appraises you. Across from him sit 2 others, an elderly Cuban gent in a red suit vest, puffing on a thick cigar, and a dangerous-looking woman in a red dress who sips from a martini glass. All 3 of them have murder in their eyes. Who are these idiotas? It would be, who are these idiotas? Mr. Alvarez asks one of the guards escorting you. They ask to speak with you, Desi, the man stammers. Oh. Well, pour him something hard, will you? Don't just stand there. After a quick nod, your escort jaunts out of the room, leaving you with the 3 apparent coterie agents. Come, sit. You politely turn down a variety of smokes and take a seat at the table. So, you were looking for me? You nod and inform Mr. Alvarez that he is a person of interest in your investigation, that you knew he often frequented this very bar, and that you were hoping to simply ask him a few questions. Without hesitation, the woman in red pulls a long knife from seemingly out of nowhere, but the man in the suit holds out his hand, and she slides the blade back into her garter belt, covering it with the fabric of her dress. And we'll see if either one of these investigators has the police or detective trait. I highly doubt it, though. Let's see. Wayfarer, cultist, silver twilight. Yeah, color me unsurprised. First off, you can just call me Desi. Everyone else does. I'm not a big fan of formalities. He waves his hand as if to fan away the tension in the room. Secondly, I don't just frequent Cafe Luna. I own it. There was a change of management a few months back. I guess your intel is a bit outdated, eh? He chuckles, crushes the stub of his cigarette into a nearby ashtray, and immediately flicks open his lighter to light a new one. So, why don't you tell me about this investigation of yours? You do, emphasizing that you are only after the location of keys, and not whatever operation Desi has going on here. His expression sharpens into angular stone. Right. Keys, eh? Is that all? All right, then. We might be able to help each other out. Check how much time has passed in the campaign log. If fewer than 20 time has passed, proceed to intro 2. If 20 or more time has passed, skip to intro 3. So as a recollection, we've got this calendar. Let me bring it back up top so you can see it a little bit better. There we go. We've got this calendar that we're using to track time passed. So each day, trying to do this blind essentially, I can use the shadow here. Bring it down just a bit. So each day here essentially, there we go, represents a time passed. So based on that, that's how we track the amount of time that's passed. In this case, we can see that only 4 time has passed. So we'll move back into TTS, and that will bring us over to Intro 2. Intro 2. Desi sighs and opens up to you, much to the chagrin of his 2 companions, who look on with surprise. Something's been after my crew in Havana. Started with some new blood who went off grid all of a sudden, then a couple long-timers, just gone, he says with a snap of his fingers. At first, I thought it was some uppity rivals looking to expand their territory. Fools who don't know who I really am. The kind of scum who'd run this city into the ground. He ashes his cigarette, staring into the ashes like there's some greater meaning inside to sift through. Weird part is, I don't remember their names. Nobody does. Sounds weird, eh? I never forget a name. Never. His gaze locks with yours, cold as stone. Now I'm starting to suspect something worse. The kind of thing your people deal with. You wonder aloud if this is the kind of thing his people are also supposed to be dealing with. Don't lump me in with the rest of them, he chides. I've got other fish on my menu. Now, you got 2 choices. You either help me out with my little problem, or me and my buddies here throw you to the curb. Which is it going to be? After a moment of thought, you tell Desi that you'll help if he gives you the location of any known keys and relinquishes any he might have in his possession. The other 2 coterie agents lock eyes with Desi in vain, but he has already made up his mind. He extends his hand. Deal, but I want in. We'll do this together. Nobody messes with my crew and gets away with it. Come back here tomorrow night. Same time, same place. You nod and depart, booking a room at the Plaza Hotel in Old Havana and getting some much-needed rest before tomorrow's investigation. In your campaign log, record the cell-mated deal with Desi, which I will record here. I've got my campaign log off shot in case you're wondering where I'm turning, so that proceeds to setup 1. And if I go back into the module, there should be a version of setup 1 here. Perfect. So we can place all of that out. It'll do everything there for us. Let me just make sure we've got everything we need there. So we've got Desi. Looks like all the decoys are down here and all the concealed cards that we need. Put the Cafe Luna each investigator begins at Cafe Luna. Each investigator begins over here. Alright, we'll bring them... Actually, let's do this. So we need these... So there should be... There's the story asset for Desiderio Delgado Alvarez. In your debt, despite it all. As a fast action, when an attack from a monster enemy deals damage to Desiderio Delgado Alvarez, exhaust him to cancel one of that damage and deal 1 damage to the attacking enemy. One of our investigators takes control of that, and I'm going to give him to... Let's give him to Diana. I feel like Diana is more likely... I do not want that to happen. I feel like Diana is more likely to be in the thick of things here. Where he's probably going to need some... Or she's probably going to need some damage tanking. We'll give the encounter deck a quick shuffle. Along with both Ursula and Diana's decks. Alright. So we should be all set there. Let's go through the act and agenda, then we'll draw starting hands, and then finally, we'll be off to the races. Agenda 1A, Silence Speaks. A gentle patter of rain gives the moonless night a somber, moody ambiance. The distant music and conversation drift on the wind, accompanied by a light drizzle. If there are 5 per investigator or more set-aside hollows, choose and remove 3 of them from the game and place 1 doom on this agenda. This effect may cause the agenda to advance, so we've got to watch out for that Ancient Evils clause. And then False Step version 1 for Act 1. You and Desi are looking into the disappearances taking place in Havana. It has to be the work of the creatures you were investigating back in London, but they haven't been forgotten yet. Maybe there's a way to bring them back? As an action, resign. The deal's off. You leave Desi and his crew to their fate. Forced, if Desiderio Delgado Alvarez leaves play, set him aside out of play. Each investigator takes 1 horror, and we need 6 clues to advance. That's 3 per. Alright, so we'll give the decks a quick shuffle once again. And... Okay, there should have been a button up here. Here we go. Copy to player mats. I wanted to copy the scenario card down. So now let's go ahead and draw opening hands. Well, I can already see that's going to F off for Ursula right away. I got her signature character weakness. I'm happy to see Homeboy in her starting hand along with the deduction level 2. And then we'll draw Diana's hand. Of course, her hand starts with Dark Insight in her hand. And since I set this up the other way from last night, I'm going to need somewhere else to put the cards that go underneath Diana. I will probably do that somewhere in her bonded cards, most likely. Let's see here. All right, we'll go ahead and start looking into opening hands. Call of the Unknown is going to get set aside because that can definitely F off. We're also going to put Hyper Awareness because I'm not happy to see that here. And we had another Hyper Awareness, which I'm not completely happy to see, but nothing I can do about it now. So we'll give that a shuffle. And looking at Diana's hand, I'm actually really happy to see pretty much everything in her opening hand. So I think we are all set to get into this scenario. So now that we're all set up, let's jump in. Let's see. What do we want to do here for Ursula? She would need... Actually, she will go first, and her turn will be pretty easy. She'll take a resource for action 1, and then for actions 2 and 3, she's going to spend all 6 of those resources. First to play out a Hawkeye folding camera, which after the last clue is discovered from your location, place a resource from the token pool on this card as evidence. Limit once per game at each location. While Hawkeye folding camera has 1 or more evidence, plus 1 will, 2 or more evidence, plus 1 lore, 3 or more evidence, plus 1 sanity. And then for her other 4 resources, Homeboy, Dr. Milan, Christopher, Professor of Entomology. You get plus 1 lore, and after you successfully investigate, gain a resource. While I truly pray that this nightmare is just a singular abomination, I must admit that I'm exhilarated by the possibility that this is but one specimen of a new genus. That is Ursula's turn. And she's done. Diana is going to spend 3 resources to play out her machete. She can fight, getting +1 combat for the attack, and if the attacked enemy is the only enemy engaged with you, this attack deals +1 damage. Cuts through vines, underbrush, and tentacles equally well. Probably human limbs too, but we'll find that out when enemies come out later. So that's action 1. Action 2, Diana is going to get drawn to the flame. Because with a Shroud of 5... Actually, I almost forgot to go through this. Cafe Luna, Bastion of Remembrance. 5 Shroud, 1 per investigator, so 2 clues. Cafe Luna gets -1 Shroud for each outsider enemy in play. And if there are no clues on Cafe Luna, add clues to it until it has 1 per investigator clues on it. Desi's Bar offers a variety of drinks and a rich, wild nightlife for both locals and tourists from the States looking to escape the tight grip of Prohibition. And then Diana is getting drawn to the flame, so we get our first encounter card. It's an Otherworldly Mimic, which is aloof and a hunter. 3/4 forced. If Otherworldly Mimic is ready, when an investigator at its location plays, commits, or triggers an ability on a copy of a set-aside hollow, it attacks that investigator. File number A6-261 supplemental. Subject appears to have returned to a normal state of matter. Fortunately, it is aloof, so Diana does not have to make friends with it. But we will get the 2 clues on the location. And I think I was putting her clues down. She should have 2 clues. There we go. Yeah, so we'll do that. And then there is a second where it's empty, so that will give Ursula an evidence on her Hawkeye folding camera. But it's immediately going to refill the 2 clues. There we go. Okay. That was action 2. Action 3. That's going to be 2 horror. I don't want to engage that until Diana's ready to kill it, probably on her turn. So I think Diana will just take a resource. That's it for the investigation phase. Actually, let me mark that location also so I know Ursula can't get another evidence from it. There we go. So we'll do that. Enemy phase, the Otherworldly Mimic is again aloof, so Diana does not have to make friends with it right away, but we will do upkeep. Ursula will find another hyper-awareness, which I'm less than thrilled to see. And Diana will find a Storm of Spirits. 3 cost to play, lore, or will, combat on commit. Fight using will instead of combat. If you succeed, instead of its standard damage, attack deals 2 damage to each enemy at your location, and anything else gets dealt to the attacked enemy. But if you pull a bad symbol during the attack, deal 1 damage to each investigator at your location. Mythos phase coming up. We put our first Doom on the agenda. And then Diana is our lead investigator, so she gets the first encounter card. Paradigm Efficer, which is also aloof and a hunter. Forced after you end your turn there, look at the top card of your location, or the top card of your deck. If it's not a weakness, set it aside out of play as a hollow. Then, if you own 3 or more set-aside hollows, Paradigm Effacer attacks you. 1 and 1. That's also aloof, so we don't have to make friends with that. Ursula then will draw. Knives in the Dark. Revelation, put it into play in your threat area if there's no copy of it in your threat area. Otherwise, gain Surge. Forced, after you expose a decoy, take 2 damage, limit once per round. Forced, at the end of your turn, test Agility 3. If you succeed, discard Knives in the Dark. Okay, well, fortunately, we have 2 aloof enemies. Diana's going to probably try to deal with at least one of them. So, let me look at something in her hand. When it triggers, when, if, or after one of those symbols is revealed. Either cancel the effect, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Alright, so let's make sure nothing else is going to cause us problems here. Okay, so I think we will have Ursula go first. She's going to move down. And I'm going to apologize in advance as well, folks. My Spanish is going to be terrible. because I haven't taken Spanish in, oh God, when was the last time I took Spanish? I think when I was a junior in high school, so over 20 years ago. Yeah, I feel old just even saying that and being able to articulate that as an actual time in my life rather than this abstract, oh hey, there's people joke about, 20 years ago, where now I'm to a point where I can actually articulate that in my life. Anyway, Ursula will start us off. She will move to Jardins de la Tropical. When it comes to high society in Havana, nothing is more iconic than this outdoor venue. But if this is one of Desi's haunts, there has to be something else at work here. And that'll flip into Shroud of 3, 2 clues. As a fast action, after you successfully investigate Jardins de la Tropical by 3 or more, choose a set-aside hollow, its owner draws it. Forced, after you fail by 3 or more while investigating Jardins de la Tropical, place a non-weakness card in your hand and set it aside, out of play, victory 1. Yes, Jester, I know I'm old. I'm getting brittle and broken down in my old age, too. Anyway, now that we've moved, Ursula will trigger her special ability. After we move to a location, she can take an investigate action. Let's see, she's going to be at a 4... She's actually at a... Actually, no, that's not will. It's not will she's or not lore she's affecting yet. It's will. She's even, but I'm going to commit... Am I going to use deduction? I think I am here. So I'm going to commit deduction level 2 to give me 2 lore. So she's at a... She's actually back down to a 4. That brings her up to a 6 to 3. Ursula's up 3. That's a -1. That'll give her both clues, along with another evidence on the Hawkeye folding camera. So deduction's gone. Let's see, we need 6 clues, and there's no restriction on spending those clues. Let's see. Ursula will then move to... let's move her over to Gran Teatro de la Havana. So that'll be another move action. We can't take another investigate action here. We're using her special ability. We could do another full investigate. Nobody else seems to notice the presence swirling above the Teatro Nacional, but you've seen it before in London. And where such creatures roost, the coterie is sure to be present as well. Perhaps you should get tickets and see for yourself. And that flips into a Shroud of 4, 2 clues. During your turn, spend 2 resources. Reduce Gran Teatro de la Havana's Shroud by 2 until the end of your turn. Limit once per turn, victory 1. And then for action 3, Ursula will investigate. Now she's at a 6 thanks to the camera. To a 4, Ursula's up 2. A 0 gets her another clue, so nicely done, Ursula. Alright, and then that is it for Ursula's turn. Diana, I don't particularly want to be at this location with the... I don't want to be at the location with either one of these, to be honest. So I think we're going to move Diana up to El Malecon. The broad roadway along Havana's northern seawall is a perfect place for both public gatherings and clandestine meetings. Could the coterie have agents posted there? That flips into Shroud of 5, 2 clues. As a reaction, after you expose a decoy at El Malecon, expose another concealed mini-card at El Malecon. Group limit once per round. A patter of drizzling rain sets a somber mood as you scour the Malecon for any trace of Desi's crew. Victory 1. Diana's going to move over to the Miramar Yacht Club. Hey, look at that. It's a location I have no problem pronouncing. It's a minor miracle. Alright, if Desi is a member of the club, chances are it's no coincidence. Wherever he and his crew show up, those things are sure to follow. Or is it the other way around? Only one way to find out for sure. Oh, we should have 2 extra actions from our first turn. I totally forgot about that. So we'll pretend. So actually, we'll just take that in the next round. I completely spaced on that. Shroud of 1, 2 clues, 1 per. Investigate. As an action to investigate, instead of discovering clues, look at the revealed side of a concealed mini-card at Miramar Yacht Club. For every 2 points you succeed by, look at the revealed side of an additional concealed mini-card at Miramar Yacht Club. Desi's crew sure knows how to live it up. That was action 2. Action 3, Diana will investigate. She's up 1. And gets tentacle touched. Color me unsurprised. And then that'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase. Both of these enemies are hunters, so we can... And we've got 2 equidistant investigators, so I can split them up, and I think I will. The question is, how do I want to split them up? Let's see. Ursula's got to test agility for knives in the dark at the end of her turn. So she is up 1. And gets rid of knives in the dark. Alright, so as I was saying, now I get to split these guys up if I want to. I think we'll send the Paradigm Effacer after Ursula down to Jardins de la Tropicale. We'll send the Otherworldly Mimic to El Malecon. There's a pretty good chance I may have Diana try to land on that on her turn. Well, actually, no. I think I'm going to let the Otherworldly Mimic come to us, most likely. But that is it for the enemy phase, so now we do upkeep. Let's see what Diana draws. Diana draws a Ward of Protection. 1 cost to play, wild card on commit. Fast, play when you draw a non-weakness treachery card, cancel that card's revelation, then take a horror. Ursula will do upkeep. Oh, geez. She will draw a back injury. That either has to put it into play in your threat area, or take 1 damage and shuffle into her deck. It can't leave play except by the double action ability below. -1 health, and action to discard back injury. Well, given that I'm actually going to remember that I've got 2 extra actions this turn, I'm going to put that into her threat area. So we'll deal with that this turn. Let's see. Mythos phase, putting a Doom on the agenda. Diana will draw Memory Variant, put it into play next to the threat agenda. After an event is played, instead of discarding it, set it aside out of play as a hollow. As an action, test Will 4. If you succeed, discard Memory Variant. Any investigator may trigger this ability. I'm not really feeling that right now, so I think on that note, we're going to play Ward of Protection to get rid of that. Diana will take a horror. That will get discarded, and I'm going to make my area for Diana up here. So that's her special ability of after a card you own cancels or ignores a card effect or game effect. If there are fewer than 5 cards beneath Diana, and there are, place it face down beneath her, draw a card, and gain a resource. And then Diana will draw Hand of Fate. Fast, play when an enemy attacks an investigator at your location. Cancel the attack, then add Bless tokens to the bag equal to the attacking enemy's total combined damage and horror value. We'll talk briefly about... Morning, Troy. You're just in time to start to see the scenario unfold. And I'm just about to explain how Bless and Curse tokens work. So in the Arkham Horror files, there's usually an effect of blessing and curses. The card game is no exception. The way it works is through tokens that are added to the bag. The Bless token modifier, when you pull it out of the bag, it's a +2 and then you draw again. Curse token is a -2, then you draw again. So Diana canceled all of that, canceled that card. Ursula then will draw a Matter Inversion. So attached to an outsider enemy without a copy of Matter Inversion attached. If you can't, it gains Surge. Attached enemy loses Aloof, gains Retaliate, and gets +1 fight and +1 evade. Forced. After attached enemy is successfully evaded, discard Matter Inversion and draw one of your set-aside hollows. So who are we going to attach that to? I think we'll give that to the Paradigm Effacer. We'll do it like that. Ursula is still evading that base even, but I don't want to pour gasoline on the fire for Diana as she's trying to investigate, or she's going to be probably trying to investigate the best way to shove a machete into something from another world. I think that will be the plan there. So now I'm actually going to remember that I've got 2 extra actions this round. I was supposed to have them in the first round from the tarot reading, but I derped and forgot about that for a couple rounds, so instead we have 2 extra actions this round. Ursula will lead us off with 2 actions. to tell back injury to get bent. Then for action 3, she is going to investigate. She's at a 4, 5, 6, -1 because of the High Priestess 2, bringing her down to a 5. To a 4, Ursula is up 1. And gets tentacle touched. Go figures. That's action 3. Action 4, she'll run it back. Now she's up back to her normal up 2. +1 gives her the clue and a third evidence on the Hawkeye folding camera. So now she's got +1 sanity as well. So she's actually a 7/8. Action 3, she will move up to... She'll actually move up to the Miramar Yacht Club with Diana. And then we'll trigger her special ability. We'll trigger Ursula's special ability to take an investigate action. She's up by a boatload, and she should actually have a resource from Milan. So Ursula's up a boatload at the Miramar Yacht Club. -2 is not enough to pull that away, so we'll get the clue there. We do have enough clues to advance at this point, and actually I need to take a quick break before we head into Diana's turn because my chicken timer just went off. So bear with me for just a few minutes. I won't be long. I normally do a lot of my food prep for the week on Friday, but my 1985 replay is kind of causing me to play around with that schedule a little bit. So we're just trying some new things here. All right, then Ursula emptied out the location of clues. That also keeps us away from the Paradigm Effacer for a turn. I do have enough clues to advance, but I'm not going to advance yet because I don't want to advance into a rough board. So I'm probably going to wait until the end of the next Mythos phase to advance there. Diana now will... She'll investigate up 1. Rune is -3. If you fail, set each non-weakness card committed to this test aside out of play as a hollow. Play when you resolve an effect on a Mystic card that triggers. So that only triggers on Mystic cards, which means I can't use it to cancel tokens. So Diana fails. Action 2, she'll run it back. Now she's up 2. Pulls a Skull, which is -X, where X is the number of enemies in the shadows to a max of 3. In this case, there are no enemies in the shadows, so Diana does get the clue, which gives Ursula another evidence, not that it matters on the Hawkeye folding camera. And then for action 3, Diana is going to... Actually, I gotta remember, Diana's got 2 more actions this turn as well. So Diana is going to... I wonder if we just go ahead and... No, we don't send Diana in to kill that. Because if we do, Diana will be stuck there, and then she'll have to deal with the Paradigm Effacer coming in to make friends with her on her turn. So that's going to be a terrible idea. So action 4, Diana is going to draw a card. Another Eldritch Inspiration. Action 5, she's going to take a resource. That'll do it for Diana. That'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the otherworldly mimic comes in and makes friends. The Paradigm Effacer, we can send it either way, and I think I'm going to send it... We can send it either way because both the paths are equidistant, so I'm going to send that over... So I'm going to send that over to the Gran Teatro de la Havana. We'll do it that way. And then we do upkeep. Let's see, Diana... finds Greta Wagner. She might be a sight for sore eyes here. And then Ursula will find Mind Over Matter. As a fast play only during your turn, until the end of your round, you can use your lore in place of combat and agility. Greta Wagner is a 5 cost to play, +1 combat, and after you defeat an enemy, exhaust Greta Wagner and deal 1 damage to her. Discover a clue at your location, with iron and salt, with water and fire. Mythos phase puts our third doom on the agenda. Diana will then draw Body Snatched. As an action, test a Will 4. If you fail, choose an ally or item asset you control and set it aside out of play as a hollow. If you can't, take 2 damage, take 2 horror instead. A false facsimile or a paradimensional plot. I really don't feel like losing the machete here, so I could either use the Eye of Ravens or just cancel this with Dark Insight. I think we're going to go with Dark Insight to cancel that instead. So play when an investigator at your location draws an encounter card or a weakness. Cancel all of that card's effects and shuffle it back into the deck, but don't draw a new card to replace it. So we are going to shuffle Body Snatched back into the deck. Because, like I said, I don't feel like losing Diana's machete on this one. So we'll shuffle that back in. Diana will get another resource and card. And it's a daring. Commit only to a skill test during an attack or evasion attempt against an enemy. That enemy gains Retaliate and Alert for the duration of this skill test. After the test ends, draw 1 card. So, if Alert and Retaliate are very similar keywords. If you fail the test, if you fail an evade or an attack test respectively, for Alert versus Retaliate, the enemy does their damage back to you. And then Ursula will draw Secrets Lost. Test a Will 3. For each point you fail by, choose a non-weakness card in your hand and set it aside out of play as a hollow. If you succeed by 2 or more, you may take 1 horror to choose a set-aside hollow and add it to its owner's hand. So we're going to need a different space for that as well. Let's see. So Will 3, Ursula's at, I counted the 4 for the Hawkeye folding camera. So Ursula is base up 1. Unfortunately, she's got no will to commit to this, and Diana's going to give her 1 from Drawn to the Flame. So that puts Ursula up 2. Well, not Drawn to the Flame. Eldritch Inspiration. So Ursula's up 2. -2 is enough to clear that. So we're all clear. Now we're going to go ahead and, so moving into the investigation phase, we have an open player window, and there's theoretically no restriction on when we can spend the clues. So we'll spend our 6 clues here to advance the act. Pursued into the streets. There's something off about all of this, Desi remarks as you patrol the rainy streets of Havana. I swear, I keep seeing something following us, but when I look, fate must have a sense of cosmic irony, as the moment Desi turns around, a formless shape not unlike a distortion in reality opens its gaping maw and swallows him whole. You shout his name in terror, but to your surprise, the distortion reshapes himself in his image. The imposter gives you a sinister grin before vanishing into the shadows, taking the real Desi with him. If the Desiderio Delgado Alvarez story asset is in play, set him aside, out of play, removing all tokens and attachments from him. Let's just make sure there were no restrictions. Okay. Alright. Find the set-aside Desiderio Delgado Alvarez enemy with the encounter back. The lead investigator draws that enemy, resolving his concealed keyword. One at a time in player order, each other investigator chooses a different set-aside coterie enemy and draws it, resolving its concealed keyword. Shuffle the encounter pile and discard pile and the remains of the Crimson Conspiracy and Cleanup Crew encounters into the encounter deck. Alright, I believe this is the enemy side. Yes, it is. Actually, let's... Hold on, I just want to look... Oh, wait. No, so this is the... Hold on. Find the Desiderio with the encounter card back. Okay, so that is set aside. Alright, which means that goes away. And then we get the Desi with the encounter back side. Alright, so he goes to the shadows. resolving his keyword. So, Desiderio Delgado Alvarez, we need concealed one person. We need his decoy, or his card, and 2 decoys. I just want to refresh my memory on concealed. I believe those go to the location we are at. Concealed X. Above the agenda deck, where do the decoys go? As evenly as possible among each location in play. Okay. Up. There we go. All right, so we'll put 1 here. 1 here. And we'll put 1 here. All right, and then in player order, let's see, then in player order, each other investigator chooses a different set-aside coterie enemy and draws it, resolving its keyword. Let's see, so we'll take a coterie agent, which will put a doom on it. And we'll need coterie agent A and 2 decoys. And we'll spawn 1. Actually, so yeah. And we'll go 2 and 3. Then shuffle the encounter discard pile and the remains of the encounter set and the encounter sets into the deck. Oop. Along with the encounter deck. Okay. Now we're all clear there. All right, and Act 2A, False Colors. Wait, what in the world just happened? That entity touched Desi and assumed his form. Is that what has been happening to Desi's crew? You have to find him before it finishes the job. When an investigator would resolve an enemy's concealed X keyword, spend X clues as a group, spawn and engaged with that investigator instead. Action to resign. You leave Desi and his crew to their fate. Objective. If there are no enemies in the shadows, investigators may spend the requisite number of clues to advance, which is 2. And I think we already have the 2 clues. Yep, Ursula's got both of them. So I'm not too worried about that. So now our main order of business is to find... Our main order of business now is to find our enemies in the shadows. So... I think with that note, we are going to have... I don't want to end our turn here with the Otherworldly Mimic. Plus, we've still got the Paradigm Effacer still on his way. Let's go ahead and have Diana attack at the... Let's go ahead and have Diana use an action to try to attack the location. So she's going to use the machete for that. Yeah, I think she uses the machete for... I think she can use the machete for the... Actually, before we do that, better idea. Phoenix Knight's going to stop being an idiot and play out his ally, play out Greta Wagner for 5. That was action 1. Now action 2, she's going to attack the location using the machete. So she's at a 3, 4 thanks to Greta, 5. Diana's up 1. That's a rune, which is a -3. Fortunately, that doesn't fail, so that goes away. And Diana is going to flip over this. Actually... Yes, we're going to flip over this concealed card. Oh boy, we find Desi, so it looks like we are going to be at the... So since we found Desi already, that means he spawns at our location. Right. So as soon as we find him... Yep. So Desi makes friends with Diana. So he gets +2 per investigator health. When Desiderio Delgado Alvarez takes damage during Act 1 or 2, which is Act 2 now, instead automatically evade him. After Desiderio Delgado Alvarez is evaded by 2 or more, and there's another copy of him at your location, that copy deals this one 2 damage. So he's actually a 6 health enemy. And at an evade of 3, Yikes. So we actually found Desiderio right off the bat. So we need no enemies in the shadows. Alright, so he's engaged with Diana, Alert, Hunter, and Retaliate. So we need to be very careful about that. Unfortunately, that was action 1. Action 2, I think Diana's going to try to evade. So he's already got Alert. So I'm going to commit Daring to the test. Actually, all right, catch you later, Jester. Hopefully breakfast goes well for you. Would that give him double Retaliate, though? Because that could be a big problem. He also does 2 and 1. He does 2 and 1. I wonder if we'd do better trying to attack him. We'd be base up 1 trying to attack, whereas we'd be even trying to evade. I think we're actually going to attack. So that was action 1 to attack the location we found Desi. Action 2, we are going to attack him. So we'll be up 1. Using a machete, we'll be up 1 base. So I think that's what we'll go with. Up 1. Elder Sign is +2. You may choose a card beneath Diana and add it to your hand. I will grab Dark Insight back to her hand, which will reduce her will, but it will let me automatically evade Desi from the location. So Desi goes away. Action 3, Diana's going to wave. Where do I want Diana to move? Because I don't want her in the path of this Paradigm Effacer. I think... Let's see. After you end your turn at the location... Well, either way, we can't get away from this otherworldly mimic. But I could stay away from the Paradigm Effacer, possibly. Question is, where do I want to move to? I've still got a Vicious Blow in hand, which I'm probably going to need to deal with Desi, so I want to sit on that for as long as I can. That is a Shroud of 5 at El Malicone, which I'm not crazy about. Well, we're probably going to have to deal with this Effacer at some point. So... Let's move over to El Malicone. We'll do that for now. So that'll be it for Diana's turn. Ursula is going to move over for action 1. She's going to join Diana over at El Malicone. Ursula's even trying to take an investigate action. She's going to so she flips that over. She will investigate at even, and we can choose to either discover a clue or go for the concealed card. Even. +1 works. All right, let's go ahead and flip over this concealed card. Wow! Coterie Agent. So we find that. The Coterie Agent's gone. So the Coterie Agent's gone, and since there are no enemies in the shadows now, we got lucky there. We will go ahead and spend the clues. Ursula's still got 2. So we'll spend those to advance the agenda. That was a lucky pull. All right. So, all right. Truths Untold. It's clear now what has been happening to Desi's crew. They are being snatched by the very same entities that you and Flint had been investigating and replaced by deadly imposters. But their true objective seems to be eliminating the evidence of their mimicry. Are they trying to infiltrate the coterie from within? Are these creatures truly intelligent enough for such a scheme? Whatever the case may be, you've tracked down the imposter. Desi is in danger of being erased from existence, or worse. You're not sure you can trust him, but you have to do something to help. Ready the Desiderio Delgado Alvarez enemy. Remove all tokens from him and discard all attachments from him. Find the previously set-aside Desiderio Delgado Alvarez story asset, flip him to his enemy side, and spawn him at the same location as the one in play. Randomizing them so you don't know which is which. Okay. So we'll flip that one over. This Desi readies. And we'll shuffle them together. Okay. And now we don't know which is which. And they both have the exact same text on either side. Okay. All right. Yikes. This might have been a bad idea because Diana's going to land on... They're both going to land on Diana, most likely. Okay. All right. You arrive... So, Act 3A, False Light. You arrive just in time to see two exact replicas of Desiderio embroiled in a deadly battle for the fate of his identity. In the midst of the chaos, it is impossible to tell which is which. There is no time to study their mannerisms. You have to act. Each copy of Desiderio Delgado Alvarez loses Concealed X, loses Hunter, gains Aloof, and gains the following ability. Action, Parlay. Check the campaign log. If the cell knows Desi's past, you ask a question only he can answer. Look at the other side of this enemy. Objective. If either copy of Desiderio Delgado Alvarez is defeated, advance without looking at its other side. I will check the campaign log now, and we don't know Desi's past. So we don't have that ability available to us. So fortunately, they are both aloof. Which means since we found all of the enemies, we get to pull these concealed cards away. Because they're all decoys, so we don't need them anymore. Alright. And then that was Ursula's first action. Let's see. So after he's evaded by two or more, and there's another copy... Let's see. What do I want Ursula to do here? So Ursula still managed to pass that. She gets the resource. Action 2. Ursula's going to investigate up 1, because now we want victory points. -1 gets her another clue and a resource. And action 3. We're going to use Burning the Midnight Oil. So that'll give her 2 resources, and then we'll investigate up 1 again. -1 gets her another clue. So nicely done, Ursula. And another resource. And then that'll do it for Ursula. That'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the otherworldly mimic comes over. Both copies of Desi join us. And the Paradigm Effacer moves up to the Miramar Yacht Club. So now we do upkeep. Diana will draw another Daring, okay. Ursula will find Jake Williams. Not that useful, truth be told. Jake Williams is Ursula's signature ally. There's a look at his signature card. Mythos phase, we go up to 4 Doom in play. Diana will draw Knives in the Dark. Really doesn't do anything to us right now. And then Ursula, Swift Retreat. If there are no Coterie enemies in play, and I believe Coterie... Yep, Desi is a Coterie enemy. Otherwise, find the nearest Coterie enemy and test Agility 3. If you fail, that enemy attacks you. If you fail and that enemy is not in the shadows, resolve its keyword ability if able. So both copies of Desi will lose Concealed, which means they won't be able to resolve that. Ursula will commit one of her copies of actually, play only during your turn, so never mind. She'll commit a copy of Hyper Awareness to go up 2. +1 means Swift Retreat is not a problem, so that goes away. And that brings us back into the investigation phase. So now we have to pick which copy of Desi we're going after. Let's pick... So we don't know which one we're getting. That's the only thing here. Let's see. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo is one way to decide it. Do I have a coin right here that I could flip? I do not, but I've got a Cold Stone Creamery gift card here that I could flip. So heads will go after the... So dollar side up will go after the bottom one. Legal text side up will go after the top one. bottom side up, we're going after the top one. All right, so after he is evaded by 2 or more and another copy. All right, so action 1, Diana is going to make friends with this copy of Desi. We have to act quickly. Action 2, she's not flipping Diana. Action 2, she's going to use the machete to attack Desi, and she's going to commit vicious blow to the attack along with a... yeah, he would probably gain double retaliate for this attack, so we will... when he takes... Okay, so when he's evaded by 2 or more and there's another copy... yeah, let's commit another daring to the attack. That way we get potentially 3 damage if we succeed. Because of the plus... So 1, base 2... Actually, vicious blow, this one would do 4 damage if it succeeds. So we are up by... So we're at 3, 4, 5... 7, 10, so we're up 6. Which that's a 0, so that Desi takes 4 damage. So that one takes 4 damage. And we also draw a card from Daring, which is a Hypnotic Gaze. Play when an enemy attacks an investigator at your location. Cancel the attack, then reveal a random token from the bag. If it's got a bad symbol, deal the attacking enemy's damage to itself. Alright. So, that was action 2. Action 3, she's going to try it again, because we would just end the scenario right here. She's at a 3, 4, 5. We are going to use... We're going to commit a Spectral Razor to go... Actually, yeah, 3, 4, 5. She'll go up 2. That's a 0, so this copy of Desi has been defeated. Rather easily, I might add. So that means we advance. Alright. Okay, No Man Like Me. Your intervention gives the Desi you suspect is real just enough time to gain the advantage. While you had been pulling your punches, Desi has no such qualms. He shoves his firearm in his imposter's stomach and pulls the trigger. The other Desi collapses, lifeless, to the floor. Blood pools from his bullet wound and soaks his body crimson. Desi spits on the corpse of the mimic. Pudrete en el infierno, he mutters under his breath. Then he clasps his shoulder and gives you a grin. Thanks. I really owe you one. From what you can tell, his mannerisms seem perfectly natural. You breathe a sigh of relief. For the remainder of the campaign, do not look at the other sides of either copy of Desiderio Delgado Alvarez until you are instructed to do so. Find the copy of Desi Delgado Alvarez that is in play. If both copies are in the victory display, return 1 to play. Store this copy of Desiderio Delgado Alvarez in a safe place where you may refer to it later in the campaign. R1, page 31. Alright, let me get my copy of Desi saved as an object. So, let's see. Save object. There we go. And now we go to page 31 for the scenario resolution. And that is R1. Yes, R1. All right. Resolution 1. You recap the night's events in your head as Desi calls an impromptu meeting with the rest of his crew. I have to sort through this, he mutters to you in frustration. The fact that any of them could be, well, it puts things into perspective. Not sure who to trust. He certainly seems to be back to normal. You must have made the right choice. Then again, your mind wanders to the version of Desi who stalked you through the rainy Havana streets, to gunshots and distortions in the sky. You can't help but continue to scan Desi's eyes for any sign, any at all, that he is not who he claims to be. You find none. Or perhaps the mimic simply knows how to act now that it has been in his skin for so long? Well, he interrupts your thoughts, I guess I owe you my end of the bargain. Blackbird Solitaire. You blink in confusion. Blackbird Solitaire, he repeats. It's one of the passphrases for my hideout in Ybor City. We rotate passphrases whenever I grant someone in my crew access, which is Rare. Not even the rest of the coterie knows how to get in. They think it's just a front anyway. I think most of them don't understand what I'm really up to most nights. As if sensing your next question, a smile crawls along his lips. Cleaning up the city, that is. He flicks his cigarette into a wet puddle, not seeming to understand the irony in the act. Anyway, 7th Avenue. Old condemned cigar factory. You can't miss it. Got at least one of those things you're after stored inside. Just give it a week or two before they get the message about the new passphrase. Then it's all yours. Then Desi loads a new magazine into his Thompson and turns to address his crew. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some imposters to root out. You decide to leave before you're forced to know exactly how he plans to do that. Gee, I wonder how. In your campaign log, record, each investigator earns experience equal to the victory X value of each card in the victory display, which is a total of 4. We cleared out 3 locations and 1 for Desi, so that's a total of 4 experience. Hopefully we can do a little more than just vicious blows and deductions. In your campaign log, record Desi is in your debt. In your campaign log, record the passphrase. In your campaign log, under time passed, find the 6th spot from the current time. Under that spot, write theta. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it looks like we're on day 10. We're going to have 2 status reports. We're going to have what looks like sigma and theta. If there's fewer than 6 time remaining under time passed, write theta. Remember not to look at the other side of the Desiderio Delgado Alvarez when you clean up. Mark 2 time in your campaign log, and then you may embark. Okay, so we are in Havana right now. I don't want to come back to Ybor City for a little while yet. He said to give it about 6 times, so that's 4 time away from where we're at now. So where do we want to embark to? Let's see, that would cost me 2 time. So actually, let's move up here. You guys can see what I'm looking at up here. So this is so I've got the same map I've got the same map in my notes that I'm looking at. I'm deciding what I want my next scenario to be. Like I said, I don't want to venture too far. Actually, you know what I could do? Looks like we could actually go 1 location from Havana over to San Francisco, and I think I will. So we'll go to 26G, but we're also going to have a status report coming up because we've got the Alpha status report. So 26G in the campaign log. Where in the world is that? Here we go. All right. Quid pro quo. When you're in San Francisco, go to quid pro quo 1. So quid pro quo 1. All right. So since we're in San Francisco, a set of obscure and overly complex instructions leads you to a drab 2-story stone building on the edges of San Francisco's Chinatown neighborhood. Inside, a board attendant slumps behind a desk near a brass elevator. Punching in a specific code, the elevator takes you deep underground, farther than you could have predicted. On negative 14F, you step out and are greeted by an imposing man in a well-tailored suit and a black fedora. Archibald Hudson. We met in London, he reminds you. Your cell is quite the talk around the office. The agent leads you down a seemingly endless hallway lined with alcoves. Each alcove displays something different. A model of a hollow earth, a crystal skull, a map with ley lines and other unknown markings. You pause and look at a half-eaten ear of corn, still steaming. From what I hear, that corn's been cooked to perfection for the last 2 decades. So is the dame who was eating it, Agent Hudson says grimly. Looking at the paradimensional relics gives you a headache. Your eyes struggle to focus on them. They are both there and not there at the same time. Hudson ushers you down a side hall into a boxy room crammed with metal filing cabinets and sits down behind a heavy wooden desk. He speaks into a ring and spring microphone. File number 26-G2. Interview conducted by Hudson Archibald. Designation 42A6-951. That's Agent Hudson to you, he arches an eyebrow. Over the next several hours, you answer a gauntlet of grueling questions about your experience thus far, ranging from the past day to your experience in London. When it's all done, Agent Hudson leans back and lights a cigarette. I'll admit, I was skeptical about you from the start, but Commissioner Taylor has good instincts, and I haven't seen them steer her wrong yet, he says. You've done good work so far. We have some intel and some resources that might be useful for you. Tell me what the Foundation can do for you. The investigators must decide. Choose one. We'd like to get around faster. The lead investigator adds 1 copy of expedited ticket to their deck. You may embark. We'd like some supplies. Each investigator earns 1 additional experience. You may embark. We'd like some intel on subject number 11-B. Skip to quid pro quo 3. Choose this option only if you have not visited Marrakesh. Marrakesh is over here in... Oh. Come on. There we go. Marrakesh is over here in Africa. Tab was not working for me. So I think that's actually not too far from us. So I think we're not going to be spending too much experience coming up here. Or not, well, too much time, I should say, with what I've got in mind. But we are, I think, going to... Let's actually take that intel. So we'll like some intel on 11-B. All right, so choose this option only if you've not visited Marrakesh. We have not. So quid pro quo 3. Agent Hudson flips through some files and pulls out an updated dossier similar to the one in your possession, but much thicker. Subject 11-B calls herself Amaranth, but this is not the first Amaranth the Foundation has encountered. She pops back up every few decades, looking completely different each time. This iteration bears a striking resemblance to a former student of a Miskatonic University in Massachusetts. Oh, we're familiar with that. Erin Coquin was her name. She's been missing for some time. You wonder aloud if it might be a coincidence. There are no coincidences in our line of work, he mutters. In your campaign log, record the cell knows Amaranth's name, and then we may embark. But before we embark... we've got our aforementioned status report, because we have the status report alpha. Here we go. All right. Status report alpha. As your travels continue, the Foundation receives more and more reports of strange disappearances. With each new dossier you read, you worry that it is only a matter of time before there is nothing left. Add 1 cultist token to the chaos bag. So I'll grab a cultist for... once I can find it here. Oh, down here. All right, so added a cultist. Let me go ahead and save that real quick. Oop. We need to specify Scarlet. We need to specify Scarlet Keys campaign bag, Phoenix. Come on. There we go. Perfect. The object is overwritten, and we still may embark. So the question is, where do I want to go from here? Let's go back to the map here. Actually, we're not too far from New Orleans, which, based on this map, yep, it's a side story. So, that is an option. So, let's see. I think we've done Curse. I'm trying to remember if we've done Curse of the Rougerou on. No, I know when we did Curse of the Rougerou. We did Curse of the Rougerou with Jester when we stopped by to pay a visit during the fall campaign in 2023. Was it 2020? I'm trying to remember which fall we did Return to Path to Carcosa, so I'm going to move that off. If I remember correctly, it was fall 2023. Was it 23? No, it was 20. It was 23, because when we did the fall campaign in 2024, we were doing Astro Knights Eternity. That's right. I remember now. It was fall campaign 2023 when we stopped by to visit Jester's channel for a scenario in that game, and now I'm trying to find. That's what it was. At least I could have sworn I saved. Oh, here we go. Fall campaign 2023. Yep. Return to Path to Carcosa. That's right. I remember that because when I was hosting that one on TTS, the scenario actually crashed out on us. So we actually have done Curse of the Rougerou on the channel. Let's see. We've got 2 more time before we get to our next status report. Actually, we've got 2 more time before we get there. Let's actually go to. Actually, it would take us 2 time to get to Ybor City, depending on, well, no matter where we go. Let's see, that would be 1, 2, 3 time back. Let's go. It'll only be 1 time to get to Anchorage, or we could go to Tokyo. You know what? Let's do that. Let's go to. Let's see if. Let's stop over in Tokyo for a minute. So we will check that off. Let's see if Tokyo turns us into a scenario. So we're in Tokyo now. I'll mark off a time on. There we go. So we've marked off a time on the log. 30. What is that? 37-M. And I just got a ping, probably from Facebook. Here we go. Just got tagged in another project. Okay. All right. Just double checking all of that. So, I was back in OBS. So 37M. Let's see if that turns into a scenario. 30. Actually. So if I'm back in Havana, we could spend 2. Actually, better idea than going to Tokyo. We're still going to mark off 2 time, but I think instead of going to Tokyo, I do want to stay somewhat close. So we're still in Havana. It would be 2 time to go over to Marrakesh. So let's do that instead. So we'll go over to Marrakesh at 11B. Let's see if that turns into a scenario. So this is file number 11B. And 11B does turn into a scenario. Okay. So let's go through the dossier file for what we're getting into next. All right. You may read this dossier at any time. File number 11-B. Subject class red. Real identity unknown. Last location Marrakesh, Morocco. Description. Subject number 11-B. Hereinafter Amaranth is a woman of European descent. Appears to be in early 20s. Typically seen wearing a large red flower that partly obscures her face. Paradimensional capabilities. Power to redacted and redacted. Channels redacted via redacted to redacted and redacted from redacted. I apologize that so much of this is redacted. It's actually how it is in the campaign guide. No recorded limits to this redacted. Data limited only to minor events. Subject redacted via tactile contact, which limits redacted of redacted. Possible redacted ramifications. Sightings 1. Sightings 1. November 23rd, 1923. Arkham, Massachusetts. Agents witnessed subject healing wounds of redacted member redacted from nearby trees. Elevated redacted activity reported in the months following. 2. January 11th, 1924. Lisbon, Portugal. Local cell apprehended subject. Redacted contact confirmed. 1 cell member immediately deceased. Second victim remains catatonic. Subject eluded questioning. 3. Unconfirmed sighting in Marrakesh. Further intel required. Immediate assistance requested. Approach procedure. Subject is incredibly dangerous. Engage only with extreme caution. Physical contact prohibited. More information available in San Francisco office. File number 26-G2. So that is where we are headed into Marrakesh next week with the third scenario, which in our case will be Dead Heat. So if you haven't played Scarlet Keys yet, what you're probably gathering is it's a very sandboxy campaign, as you're probably seeing with the world map as well, where there are different paths you can take with this. And actually, let me see if I keep the campaign log for my group in here. And we actually took a very different path here from how we did this, or from how I'm doing this now. Yeah, it looks like we did more in Europe. We actually did quite a bit over in Europe. We did quite a bit in Europe, a little bit in Asia, a little bit in the Western Hemisphere, but as you can see, we've been mostly in North America. We're actually making our first trek to Africa now. So you can take several different paths with this campaign. For example, we're in Marrakesh now. So we started in Arkham. You might be able to start this in several different ways. You might go up to Anchorage next, or you might decide to travel over to Tokyo. There are a lot of different ways you can go with this campaign. Just go into it knowing that there's a lot of narrative in this campaign, which admittedly, I really like that heavy narrative focus in this campaign. But not everybody is going to, because it is a lot of reading. But again, I'm kind of rambling on that, as that will do it for this playthrough. So we changed our mind, and now we're at Marrakesh, and that is 119. So that will do it for this playthrough of Dancing Mad. I swear I get reminded of the Final Fantasy VI song, the final boss, the song by the same name. But we didn't do any of that in this scenario. So what else is coming up on the channel? Later this afternoon, we're going to continue my 1985 season replay in Season Ticket Baseball, as we will be at the friendly confines of Wrigley Field, as the Cincinnati Reds will be in town to play the Chicago Cubs. Wednesday, we'll be jumping back in our German America Bomber to play America Bomber, Evil Queen of the Skies by Compass Games. Saturday, Mystical Munchies will continue out of the Marvel Eat the Universe cookbook with the entree, Phoenix's Hot Egg and Chicken Oyakadon. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care, everyone.